Hi, it's your girl Lola Lovely, and welcome to The Love Frequency. This episode is entitled The Summer of Surrender. I have taken it for myself. My birthday is in June. For me, it's always the kickoff of the summer season when my birthday shows up. Say this: I'm a sun in Gemini, moon in moon in Capricorn, and Leo rising. So I'm glad for the Capricorn. I have to be honest. I'm glad for the Leo. I'm glad for the Gemini. So I have decided that this would be the summer of surrender. And I wanted to just get into what does it mean to really surrender, and what does it mean to really release the idea of things having to work out a certain way. We are so rigorously caught up in this idea that things have to work out this way, or it has to show up this way, or I'm not happy with it, or I'm not satisfied with it, or I don't like the way that it's showing up, so I don't want any part of it. So for me, I've decided that this summer would be my summer of saying yes and my summer of truly surrendering. So let's just talk about what surrender really means. Surrender is the willingness to give up the control over what? Sorry. Give up control. And look at that. God teaches me right in the moment. Spirit teaches me right in the moment. It's the willingness to give up control of how things should look. It's the willingness of giving up the control over the outcome or one's own will. My will is to have a podcast where there's not little tiny dogs barking and the neighbor dog barking. And so I can't cut that out. I have to let it in because that is a part of this willingness to show up, this willingness to release this control of the outcome to a higher power. Hey, no more woof woofs. They stopped, you stop. Okay. So, in a spiritual context, surrender means the willingness to give up control of one's own will and trusting in a higher power and a greater plan for your life. One that you don't know the outcome of. One that you don't know the steps that are going to happen. One that you don't know the greatness of the outcome. It's about letting go of the ego and the attachments and trusted that you're being guided and supported by a higher power beyond your understanding and beyond your power. I do have some notes. I'm going to refer to the notes. So letting go of control. We'll talk about that. Surrender involves relinquishing your desire to dedicate the outcome of it. I'm sorry. We'll go back. Letting go of control. This means surrender. This involves surrender, relinquishing your desire to dictate the outcome of the events of your life's path, trusting that a higher power has a better plan. So, true surrender is saying, I have no idea how to get from point A to point B. I just know that what I see and what I require and what I request is point B. And so my prayer, my heart, my soul is now integrated into the outcome of point B without me having to see A, B, C, D, E, or point Z, without me having to see the whole alphabet to get to that. It's just letting it go and letting it flow, letting spirit or God or whatever higher power you call in, whatever magic you wield to move you into the place where it's going to show up. I mean, it is also about vibrational alignment with it. So it's about not dictating the events, not saying, oh, I want to find a mate. He's going to be this. He's going to have that. I'm going to meet him while I'm in Jamaica. So I need to go to Jamaica. He's going to be this, or we can't even fill in those blanks. And sometimes when we try to fill in those blanks, we force something to happen that isn't completely correct for us. We force something to manifest that isn't really not a right fit because we have this rigorous idea of how it's supposed to be, instead of allowing there to be space for spirit to move, for the ancestors to give us beautiful blessings, for exterior wishes and dreams and prayers for us to integrate into the outcome of that Z. Let me make sure I'm still recording. I am. So, in my summer of surrender, what I'm truly trying to surrender to is the idea that God has a plan for me that is bigger than I could ever imagine. And that if I can get out of my own way, and I can surrender to the hits, the calls, the little tiny breadcrumbs on the path. If I can really actually remove my ego talk and focus on what is being shown to me, and literally listening to that intuitive voice that speaks very softly about turn right, go left, stay straight, don't do this, and really 100% relinquish the desired outcome. That is really what surrendering is. Relinquishing the desire to dictate the outcome and allowing Holy Spirit, because it's really, for me, it's Holy Spirit, it's God magic showing up, it's Holy Spirit showing up in a right now moment, in a right now place. Now, part of this summer of surrender for me, and this has been probably, for me, has been a lesson that I've been working for 51 years. Releasing attachment. Because baby, I got a lot of attachments on a lot of shit. I got a ton of attachments. I got a ton of ideas in my head that are attachments to the way that I think things are supposed there's supposed to be an outcome, how people are supposed to show up for me. Because you have a title, you're supposed to show up this way. Mom has a title. Dad has a title. Husband has a title. Son, daughter, they have a title. So they have, for me, expectations. Then they're supposed to show up in a way that if I'm surrendering, I can't even say my relationship with my children is supposed to be this way. My relationship with my mom is supposed to be this way. My relationship with my father is supposed to be this way. I can't say that. I have to say my relationship is showing up in the highest and best good is for me. And as I listen to those beautiful, loving moments that Holy Spirit speaks to me, I can follow that in my relationship, and I can allow people to move and have their being in the way that they are. And this is, Don Miguel's 4 agreements. Don't take it personal when people don't show up in the way that you want them to. You can't take it personal. Can't take on the agreement. You can't take it personal. I have literally in this last 30 days, I've figured out that I can decide to be happy or sad. Hello. You can decide. Whatever one of y'all knew that shit should have told me a minute ago. Okay. But I can decide. Okay. So I've decided that I would choose happiness over sadness. And I also decided that I would allow people to show up in the way that they're showing up and have no judgment to how they're showing up and not take it personal how they're showing up. However, in kind, and I just had a therapy session about attachment. So this is in kind, I want to show up in the same way that you're showing up for me, with love. I'm going to put that with love. That doesn't clean it up, because I know my therapist watches this, is not going to clean it up, but with love. Initially, I wanted to show up in the same exact way. What I realized is that I am angry about how I am giving access to myself to others when they are not giving me the same access. I realize that I'm angry that I have an open heart and an open heart policy, and other people do not have that for me. So I have to surrender to the attachment that is involved in that. So that means I have to surrender to letting go of the attachment of my desires, my possessions, and my needs and my limitation. My perceived needs. Perceived, I saw the note, it says perceived needs and my limitations. I have to let go of that. The only way for me to surrender and to really gain the true peace and the inner freedom is for me to release attachments, to really trust in this higher power and to let go of control of the outcome. That is the summer of surrender. So by finding peace and inner freedom, I surrender to the greater plan that God has for me. If I surrender to the greater plan that God has for me, I don't have to struggle with the how, where, why, and why, and what, and how many, and how much. I just have to be in the flow of it. I just have to flow with it. I'm released from the struggle of trying to control everything around me, and really like nitpicking these things of like, oh, I need it to be this way, I need it to be this way, I need it to be this way, I need to be. I'm nitpicking these things, and I don't need to nitpick. I can just release that and let go. This is really one of the biggest things of surrender, and why I think that people have such a hard problem with surrendering is like, how, sorry, knock the camera. How do I surrender but still keep control? And you can't do both. Sweetheart, you can't do both. Did you hear me? Lover, can't do both. Gotta let go and let God. Or you gotta hold on for the ride. You know? So, my last and final point that I want to talk about, seeing obstacles as opportunity. I want to go back to that. Let me back up. Because this is a love note for the inner child to come into alignment with what is being said by the inner child. For you to be able to speak to the space within you that is really dying to be observed and heard and cherish. It is that inner space that God speaks from, that Holy Spirit speaks from, that God's magic speaks from, that you are trying to come online with when you surrender, when you choose to surrender. So for me, this is where obstacles can become opportunities. If we're willing to release the attachment, we're willing to trust in the higher powers' ability to make it right for us, if we are following the breadcrumbs and following the notes that are being given from God, from Holy Spirit, from the magic that we are surrounded by. And if we're willing to let go of control, then we can start to see the obstacles as opportunities. We can reframe challenges and setbacks not as failures, but as an opportunity to grow and to learn something. You can create a poem over and over and over again. It is an ability to grow and to learn from that. It's not an obstacle that I can't make the poem work the first time around. It is what it is, but it is a work in progress. And sometimes you have to leave it there, and you have to say, okay, this is a WIP, work in progress. WIP, a lot of things. And with the WIP, I don't have to do nothing to the WIP. I can just let it be there, let it be a work in progress, let it flow in its own right. And I can see it not as a failure, not as like I got stumped, but as a learning lesson. Okay, there's some resistance in me, maybe about the subject, maybe about how I'm writing, and I need to change that up. Maybe I can't write at the dining room table. Maybe I have to go to the beach or the park. Maybe I can't write about love because my heart is too sensitive right now. So I have to write about resiliency or growing into a butterfly, you know? So it's like finding a way for us to continue to find opportunity in obstacles that seem challenging or setbacks that look like failures, to make that failure not a failure, but a try. Because nothing beats a failure but a try. And every time you try and you fall down, you pick yourself back up and you try again. And that is what true surrender looks like. That is what true surrender feels like. So in this summer of surrender to having to have it a certain way, and having to have it look a certain way, and having to have it show up a certain way, and just see what shows up without you having any investment on the outcome. It's like, when you have no block to it, when you're completely detached from the outcome of it, and you're just like, it can show up however, it will show up in an amazing way. I want to say about maybe 10 years ago, I was in my car having this talk with God, with God magic, with Holy Spirit. I was talking with Holy Spirit. She's very wonderful to talk to. So I'm talking to Holy Spirit, and I'm going through a list of all these things that I'm trying to do. At the time, I was opening a yoga studio. There was a lot of things going on. And I was like, how am I going to do this thing? And like, I heard the voice whisper to me. Because I was like, how can I get the money? How can I do this? How can I get that? And the voice said, don't worry about how. Prepare for wow. And it was, I'm going to tell you, every hair on my body stood up when I heard that voice talk to me, because I knew it was Holy Spirit speaking. And it said, you don't have to worry about how. Prepare for wow. And this is what the surrender truly is. Letting go of the attachment, trusting in the higher power, letting control and stop dictating the outcome. And setbacks are really opportunities to grow and to try again. And letting go of how and preparing for wow. Okay, so thank you for watching. I'm your girl Lola, and remember that this is a love note for your inner child to come into alignment with the inner child and to be able to speak to that space within you that is dying to be seen, heard, loved, and to really be able to see those beautiful breadcrumbs that Holy Spirit, that the God magic within you is giving to you as you surrender. Without resistance, beauty shows up in your life. So thank you so much again for joining me. Again, I'm your girl, Lola Lovely, and you're listening to and watching The Love Frequency. Bye.